I only made it 3 days into my dream job at Amazon before I found myself fighting back tears in a meeting, trying so hard to keep my voice steady and not let it tremble. When that call was finally done, immediate breakdown, just sobbing for 10 minutes straight. I had spent the last 2 nights working honestly until 12 a.m. trying to comb through this Excel, and on the call that I had just been on, I was given even more work. Mind you, this is 3 days into my very first job out of college. Little did I know that this was going to be the first of many, many breakdowns that I'd have in the next 5 years. And it wasn't long before I realized that the 20 years I spent trying to achieve academic success, studying all those late nights, that this is all it would lead me to. 40 years in a career I might hate forever. So if that feeling feels familiar, if you're someone who's working a corporate job, maybe is making great money, you're getting promoted and you're succeeding, but you still wake up every Monday morning feeling existential dread or having to start another work week. If you're exhausted from being a people pleaser and never saying no or creating boundaries for your work life, then this video is for you. So like I said, that breakdown was one of hundreds, but luckily over that time, I've also learned how to make work fit into my life and not the other way around. I have found a way to align my values to what I want out of work and redefine my relationship with it. I know so many of us feel exhausted, trapped, and stuck by our corporate jobs. I'm here to tell you, you're not alone. There's also a way out without just quitting your job. Even though that's already something I've done. If you've followed my channel so far, you might have already known that. But anyway, today I really just wanted to share exactly what I've learned over the past 4 years and how I've been able to come so far from the girl that's just crying on the floor to someone who has honestly enjoyed her corporate job over the past year. So let's dive on in. So looking back at little me, I realized I didn't actually hate the act of doing work as much as I hated the power that work had over me and the amount of control it had in my life. Like my corporate job felt like it determined everything, whether I could pay rent on time or buy groceries or hang out with friends and go out to eat, whether I would feel like I was a success or failure, whether or not I could actually enjoy my weekend, or I would be spiraling because I had a huge meeting to prep for the next week. It had so much power and control over almost every aspect of my life and how I lived. It felt like if I dropped the ball, I could lose literally everything. And when anything holds that much power over you, you can't just simply detach from it, because I was very much operating in survival mode. My job was my security. Anything that I perceived as a threat to my employment was an automatic no. And that's why I stayed in jobs that made me miserable. That's why I couldn't speak up for myself when I needed to or ask for help, because the stakes felt so high. They literally felt existential for me. And if you're watching this and you're like, you're so dramatic, like you're gonna die if you lose your job. Yeah. Logically, I think my brain knew that. Emotionally, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel secure. So I started to really distill what work meant to me. And as someone that very much intellectualizes all our emotions, all our feelings, tries to out logic and think things through, I started to really break down what my attachment to work was based on. And it really came down to 4 things. 1, financial security. I think it's safe to say this is probably the number one thing that most people who struggle with hating their job and still feel like they need to work has. Work provides us financial security. It is basic survival one-on-one, right? Like we can buy food, we can pay for our living space, we can survive in the modern day and age. Number 2, though, was my ego. It did feel good to say that I worked at a well-known company. It felt good to say that, my years of schooling had actually led me to a full-time job. Honestly, I didn't realize how much of my work was tied to my ego until I quit my job. I spent so much time defending my choice to quit my job, being like, oh my gosh, yeah, like I did this for me. It's not because I can't do my job. It's not because I'm not good enough. It's because I really, really didn't feel like they treated me fair, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And so reflecting back on that experience where I felt insecure about not having a job, just simply being employed and having a means to make money made me feel secure in myself, right? Like my own ego. But beyond the ego part, number 3, it was giving me purpose. Even if I hated some of the work that I had to do and the people I had to deal with, it gave me structure. It gave me a way to feel like I was providing value. And in our neo-capitalist society, woohoo, we are very much taught that our intrinsic value as people are also tied to our economic value, which is not something I necessarily agree with, but I will say that was something I was definitely taught when I was growing up. Like, making millions and millions of dollars makes you more valuable in society, blah, 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 whatever. Okay. Topic for another day. Anyways, having a job gave me a reason to wake up. It gave me purpose. It gave me new goals to accomplish, direction, right? Feeling like I was going somewhere. And then the 4th thing, it was social connection. I'm naturally a very extroverted person. I like having people to work on things with. I like having a strong community, and being someone that graduated straight into COVID, was fully remote for so long. It was really difficult to meet people after graduating because everyone was remote and no one was going out to do things. So throughout my journey, I started to understand that these were the 4 areas keeping me stuck and attached to my job. So the way that I could detach was to find other ways to fulfill them. The question I started to answer unintentionally is, how can I get those needs met somewhere else? And to be completely honest, there was never a time in which I sat down and I was like, these are the 4 areas in which work is improving my life and I really need to find ways to detach. No, a lot of us know right off the bat, our attachment to work is money, right? So finding an alternate way to make money felt like the way that I could escape my corporate 9-to-5. For the longest time, I always talk about this. I wanted to do YouTube. I wanted to do content. So I started a blog very early in the day. I did not make much money from the blog, but I remember when I made my first cent, I had finally felt a little inkling of what it's like to not have work be the sole provider for my finances. I took that little seed and kept reading up on ways to make money. And so for you, think about the other ways in which you could make money. Could you DoorDash? Could you do Rover and babysit people's pets? Could you sell some of your items that you currently have? There are so many other ways you can truly, truly make money, especially in this digital day and age, that by simply giving myself the time and space to explore all of the other ways in which my financial security could be met, I gave myself freedom. My survival didn't have to rely on one paycheck. And that's also 100% why when I got laid off a few months back, I don't think I panicked as much, because I was like, you know what? I'm going to be fine. And I think another part of this is, having savings, which is sometimes really difficult to do. But anytime I think of, should I spend more money? I think, okay, do I want to buy this t-shirt for $20, or do I want to put $20 into a savings account that I could potentially use so I don't have to be so reliant on my work? There are so many little mindset tweaks that you can make around money that can really help you redefine your relationship to work if the biggest thing that ties you to work is your financial security. Now, moving into my ego. So for the longest time, and I think a lot of people do this, I would simply see my identity as the girl who worked in tech. I work in business in tech. Probably took me, 3 to 4 years to realize I don't want to climb the corporate ladder. And I don't want that to be my identity forever. I want to be successful because I am someone who prides herself in being a high achiever, but I did not want to go the traditional route. So I really needed to find other parts of my identity that felt safe and secure for my ego. And so when I started my blog, that felt like it was it, because it was like, wow, I'm doing something for me. I'm putting my thoughts out there. I'm nurturing this part of my identity that is still really hardworking, but is not just achieving for her corporate career, but achieving for things that she's passionate about. There are so many other ways in which you can redefine what success looks like to you. And so if you are feeling stuck in this ego place where you feel like your identity is so much tied to your work, I really encourage you to look for a passion project that makes you excited. It doesn't have to generate you money. I mean, it's amazing if it does, because that also can help support the financial part. But by simply investing in a passion project, you are so much more easily able to remove yourself from seeing your identity and the work that you do as being everything that you achieve. And I feel like that transitions us really neatly into purpose. Like I said earlier, I feel like work, so much of it is making me feel like I am progressing, like my life had meaning. Wow, that sounds really bad. Anyways, more and more, what I've done is really invest in personal goals. Obviously, having content and a passion project makes it really easy for me to set goals for myself. But in addition to that, there are so many other goals that I set for myself. My most recent one being run a 5K, which is huge for me. I don't know if I've talked about this on my channel, but I have asthma. It was really bad when I was a kid. It's become more mild growing up. Because of that, I've always dreaded cardio and I would refuse to run all the time. After I got laid off, I was like, you know what? I am going to run a 5K, and I did the Couch to 5K program in 12 weeks and I ended up running a 5K. It's the first 5K I've ever run in 27 years of my life. So yeah, that felt really good. That's all to say, like by giving myself and finding ways to fulfill purpose in my life outside of work made it so that I didn't have to feel so tied to the work that I was doing to give me that sense of value, you know? And then the last one is just social. Over the last year, I've just really invested time and energy in finding a community that I spend so much time with and prioritize. Like, I used to be the kind of person that would have a busy work week and say, no, I'm not going to make social plans, but I no longer prioritize work over my social life. I make plans on weekdays, which makes it feel like weekdays are just as enjoyable as weekends because I get to see my people. So all of that's just to say, the way to disconnect from work is to not put all your eggs in one basket. Once I started investing in things outside of work, it made me feel so much less reliant on it and that I could actually draw the boundaries that I needed to. Now, all of that for me was so much easier said than done. Obviously, since I've gone through the process, it's so much easier for me to just reflect on it and be like, this is how I did it. Just do X, Y, and Z, and you'll feel so much more secure in work. It definitely took me 5 years to get to the place that I am. Really trying to build a life outside of work is not easy. And it felt like I was going against almost everything that I was taught. Like I grew up thinking that as long as I studied hard, as long as I got a good job, as long as I could pay the bills, I would be happy. I would be successful. And work wasn't just work. It was the path. It was the blueprint. It's the thing that makes sense. Like once you check all of these boxes, you're there, right? Like you've made it. So spending the time to choose something different, spending my evenings in the beginning watching tutorials and taking a class on blogging, doing all of this research to start making my own website, spending hours on the weekend to actually build that. That felt so unnatural when all of my peers were maximizing their weekends because that's all the time they had outside of work, right? And so there is a moment of sacrifice that you have to start making, especially when you start looking to fulfill these needs outside of your job. And it's scary because you're stepping off of the blueprint. You are going outside what you might have been taught growing up, and you're also going outside a lot of what your peers might be doing. For me, I was so afraid of being left out, left behind, like I was not taking the right step, like I would be investing in this for nothing. I should probably be investing that time more in my career and climbing the corporate ladder. I was so raised that security lives inside the system, and going out of that was terrifying. I will say the thing that has helped, especially when I felt like I was an idiot, was over time practicing deep trust for myself that every step along the way that I was going to take outside of my career, I was going to be fine in, and that I could build a version of safety that I wanted and wasn't just dictated by my career. Now, outsourcing and diversifying where you get some of these needs met, that simply decreases your attachment to work, right? But then there's still the question of whether or not you have a role that you actually like. And I think for me in the beginning, because I was so focused on getting these core needs met. I was so much like, I need to find a job that has the highest financial security, aka I make the most money. I also need to find a job that feels relatively prestigious because I want to fit the ego. I also need to have a job that's super demanding and also like rigorous so that I feel purpose and, the people around me are really smart. I want that social aspect. Because I was clinging on so hard to getting those needs met, they overshadowed all my other needs for what would make work fit into my life. So when you get to the point in which you start to realize, hey, the emphasis of work meeting all of these has decreased, it moved me out from survival mode to being more picky. This is where you will really start to challenge your beliefs and thoughts around your relationship with work. Because what I just talked about was removing the pressure, but now it's really, okay, what do you actually want from work? What would make work exciting? What would make work fun? What would make you happy? And how could you actually fit it into your life? What I realized is I really, really need a job that, one, can pay the bills enough, two, has a team that is super transparent, super open, one that I feel comfortable expressing my needs for work-life balance and respecting those needs, and three, the work at least should be relatively interesting. Like, it's not something that I absolutely am super passionate, need to do forever, but I want to be challenged. Like, I want to continue to learn and grow in my career. So where things changed for me and how I ended up picking jobs that I knew I would absolutely love, I have been absolutely diligent in choosing jobs that align to those things. And the hardest part about this is that does not come without a fight, okay? After I quit my job 2 years ago, I had given myself 3 months to essentially do my own thing, figure things out, whatever. And the time had come for me to start looking for new jobs because my savings was going so dry, okay? I was worried that I was not gonna be able to pay for housing. I was worried I was not gonna be able to pay for groceries the next month. During that time, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be able to get literally any job. And there's this one job, it was at a startup. The guy seemed like he wanted to move the process really quick. He seemed really excited about working together. And he was like, hey, Sarah, I know it's Friday, but can we do another interview on Saturday and then case study on Monday? I was just like, dude, I'm not going to work over the weekend. My values weren't aligned to that role. So I typed out an email, told him, hey, I don't think we're a good fit, but thank you for considering me. I gave up an opportunity when I was desperate and I was miserable. Okay. I was suffering for honestly another 2 months mentally, just like scrambling. And you know what? I pushed through it. I let myself go through the process literally until I had maybe like $100 in my savings. And I ended up getting a role where the manager was everything I could have ever asked for. Like, I felt so comfortable sharing with her my career goals, my aspirations as an entrepreneur. I told her what my expectations were about my job. I told her my passions. She is literally one of the best managers I've ever had. When my team got terminated and I no longer was part of her team, I was heartbroken. And then after that, I was very, very picky about the next role I had, even though I got laid off. I wasn't going to just jump from the frying pan into the fire. I needed something that was going to give me exactly what I wanted out of work. And so I was very, very particular and I asked all the hard questions in the interview. What does work-life balance look like? Here are my values and here's how I need to work. And I ended up with another manager I absolutely love. It's funny because people will always say to me, Sarah, you have such good work-life balance. You're so lucky. And I'm like, girl, it is not luck, okay? I vetted these managers as much as they vetted me. And I know there are going to be people sitting here watching and being like, well, like, you're pretty privileged because you don't have any dependents. You're right. I don't have kids right now. And I don't have those people I need to take care of. That excuse is completely valid to why you might feel like you are stuck at a role. But do you have an extra 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day to listen to a podcast when you drive to work? Like, are there any free moments in your day in which you can dedicate to finding something else that's better for you? I don't know. Every excuse that you have for yourself right now is so valid, but it's not going to change the situation you're in. Those are all just choices we make, right? And that kind of just brings me to this last point, which is you can have anything, you just can't have everything. And for me right now, I am choosing to let my career be a good fit for my lifestyle. Like, if you're someone that wants to be a VP by 35, like, you go get it. all power to you. I'm not here to tell you that that's not the way you should live. I'm just saying from my perspective, this is how I stopped hating work. I decided to choose other things in my life to fulfill those needs. And I also decided to allow myself to struggle a little bit so that I could really choose something that aligned to the life I wanted to live. And so yeah, today I'm in a role that is the best fit for what I want out of life. Even though it's not me climbing the corporate ladder, what I want is just to be able to really enjoy where I am, to choose things with intentionality and be present with the people I love and to experience new things. And my success is no longer so tied to my corporate job. So if you are in a job that's draining you and you're burning the midnight oil, you are putting in so much effort and somehow you're not feeling fulfilled, you're not happy, it's not you. You're not weak. You're not ungrateful. You're just running up against a system that was not built to protect your peace. And you don't have to blow up everything to feel better. I did. Again, quit my corporate job, go watch that video. But you don't have to. What I learned from that entire experience is really finding other ways to get your needs met outside of your corporate job. And then from there, choosing things in your job that really align to what you want. You just have to start choosing you. Easier said than done. And it's taken me so long, but I am grateful that I went through this very arduous journey to get to where I am today. So yeah, that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.